What's up, everyone? This is Demontre Black. Today we're gonna react to Desk of Death Battle. If James Bond 007, a code name. Let's watch.
James Bond. He's more than a man. He's a super spy, a legend, a code name. That's right, I said it. But before we really dive into it, let me set the scene. It was a warm night at the movies in 2008. The credits wrapped at the end of this summer blockbuster, but one man lingered on screen to utter a life-changing line. I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. And the crowd of nerds went wild! Suddenly, just like that, we were living in a post-MCU world. One where interconnected stories were all the rage, and everyone and their moms wanted to try to make a cinematic universe. Remember the Dark Universe? Yeah, that was doomed the moment they didn't get Tom Cruise fighting a real mummy. Should've called me. I know a guy. Regardless, there's a palpable desire for cameos and connections in all of our big franchises these days. But I'm here to tell you, the biggest cinematic universe has been under our noses this entire time. The Bondiverse. The James Extended Cinematic... You get it. The Bond movies. Let's get into it. The name's Jocelyn. Just Jocelyn. Then I do all the research nobody else wants to, straight from the desk of Death Battle! So, the codename theory. It's pretty well known amongst fans of the franchise, but in case you're new here, the theory proposes that the name, James Bond, is merely a codename given to each man that earns his license to kill and takes up the mantle. So each actor in the movies is actually portraying a different man in the same continuity. This would then easily connect all 25-ish movies and explain things like Dame Judi Dench playing M for both Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig's movies. That, plus we'd get all of that juicy interconnectivity I was talking about. So, I'm here to tell you, it's all true, I think. Let's find out. For starters, I know there are plenty of times where the movies specifically call out the idea of multiple Bonds. In On Her Majesty's Secret Service, George Lazenby says, "This never happened to the other fella." What's proofier than that? How about later in the movie when Blofeld doesn't recognize Bond even though they just met in the previous film? Of course he doesn't recognize this Bond, because it's literally a different guy and they hadn't met yet. Or what about when George opens up his desk drawer to find a bunch of specific stuff like the underwater breathing device from Thunderball left behind by the previous Bond? Yeah, case closed, right? But that same movie brings up a really interesting point, the Tracy of it all. Lazenby's Bond marries her, but even after she dies, multiple Bonds refer to her as their wife. Roger Moore's Bond even visits her grave in For Your Eyes Only. So sure, this might seem like a hiccup big enough to deflate the whole theory. Maybe for some weak-willed casual, but I'm a professional! And guess what? People can marry women with the same name, and people can show respect by visiting the grave of their predecessor's dead wife. It happens. Moving on, because there's just way too much here to refute the whole theory. Like in Casino Royale. The real one, we see a new guy take over the Bond identity from day one. Daniel Craig assumes the codename for the first time, and we see his origin. Not the origin of the codename that dates back to 1962, but the origin of Daniel's character becoming the cold-hardened spy that the role demands of you. Also, come on, it makes total sense that a super-secret top spy would have an alias. Why would he go around the world for decades telling everyone that shakes a martini at him that his name is Bond? Super secret top spy, my Christian name is James Bond. If that was actually his real name, it would be chaos! I mean, yes, there is some evidence to suggest that it is his real name, like the Bond family crest, the Bond family home, and Craig visiting his parents' grave because apparently that's something all of these guys like to do. So yeah, maybe there's a Bond family. Maybe they all come from the same ancestral line somehow. Maybe Bond has a nephew called James Bond Jr. that borrowed the codename 65 times from September of 1991 to March of 1992. Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. Bond's an orphan with no siblings. How does he have a nephew? And why would his parents name him James Bond Jr. after his uncle? I guess it's the codename, right? Someone who took up the mantle decided it would be a good idea to loan out the MI6 codename, License to Kill and All, to their teenage nephew? Yeah, that makes total sense. You know what? This officially isn't fun anymore. I'm forcing it, clearly. It was a fun theory because at a glance it seems like all of these pieces fit together. together. Having to shoehorn this stuff into place feels too much like work for my taste. I guess that's what usually happens when a fan theory stops being a theory and becomes headcanon. It stops being fun. When something gets canonized, there's no wiggle room for interpretation. Plus, then we're limiting ourselves and what's possible because everything needs to fit into our little boxes and meet our own expectations. That's boring. I want to have fun and let my imagination run wild. Think of the crazy fan theory possibilities. If there are multiple Bonds, it opens the door to a cinematic universe that spans 7 decades. So much lore and history to bolster such a beloved character. M's death has such a stronger impact if we think of her portrayal across those 7 movies as one singular character in continuity. We can start thinking of it like Doctor Who and celebrate the end of an actor's run by passing the torch to the next actor. Idris. And hell, this even opens the door to potential crossovers. James Bond, No Way Home, Governor. Yeah, I take it all back. A definitive answer to the question means no fun crossovers. Yeah, no thanks. I'll play out the Idris and Craig buddy Bond cop movie in my head and call the codename thing a fun fan theory and nothing more. Unless... Fun fact, all Death Battle members are 73.6% stronger and happier. So don't miss out on your chance to directly support the team by clicking that join button. And thanks for watching.
If you liked the video, give a thumbs up. I'll see you on my next reaction. This is the Montre Black. Peace.